terms of Russia's war aims, Russia has already failed, and Ukraine has already succeeded, because the principal aim that President Putin brought to this, in his own words, was to fully subsume Ukraine back into Russia, to take away its sovereignty and independence. And that has not happened, and clearly will not happen.
We want to see Ukraine remain a sovereign country, a democratic country, able to protect its sovereign territory. We want to see Russia weakened to the degree that it can't do the kinds of things that it has done in invading Ukraine. So it has already lost a lot of military capability and a lot of its troops, quite frankly. In terms of their ability to win, the first step in winning is believing that you can win. And so they believe that we can win. We believe that we can win. They can win if they have the right equipment, the right support.
Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday here in downtown Nicosia, Cyprus. To the right of me is the new town, New Nicosia, and to the left of me, right behind me right now, is Old Town. So I thought I would do a quick video from here, and it's like 8:15 right now in the morning on this Tuesday, and you guys saw the two short video clips, one with Anthony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, and the other one with Lloyd Austin, the U.S. Defense Secretary, when they were speaking to the media and made comments after their visit, well, supposedly their visit to Kiev to meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Maybe they just stayed in Poland and didn't actually go to Kiev, but who knows? Anyway, when they returned back to Poland, they came up with all kinds of statements, and I kind of want to focus in on those statements because I think there's a lot to take away from their comments. And when you put it into the context of some of the statements that Boris Johnson made when he was in India, you're starting to see that the collective West is starting to move the goalposts and change the narrative with regards to the conflict in Ukraine. And you also had some statements from Russian President Vladimir Putin, which I will get to as well. And I think he paints a very different picture than what Blinken, Austin, and van der Leyen as well, who actually gave her speech at the Raisana, I believe the Raisana Dialogue, it's what it's called, or the Raisana Conference in New Delhi. So the collective West is painting a different picture. They're moving the goalposts. They're reframing everything with regards to the Ukraine-Russia conflict, which is really just a proxy war between the United States and Russia. Ukraine being the U.S.'s proxy, and Russia fighting the U.S. NATO in Ukraine. So let's get to. Oh, I also have a really, really good clown world. I mean, this clown world, I think, is one of the weirdest clown worlds, one of the weirdest cancellations that you could possibly think of. But let's get to, let's sit down first. Let's find somewhere in the shade here. Sit down and get to Anthony Blinken's statement. You saw the video. You heard what Blinken had to say. And 1 second. All right, my phone is kind of a little bit on the fritz here. All right, we are all set. So, because I want to read you the statement from Blinken, I want to kind of go through it, and from Lloyd Austin. So 1 minute. All right, let's get rid of that heavy backpack, and let's go through what Blinken said. So Blinken, in his statement, he said that Russia has sought as its principal aim to totally subjugate Ukraine, to take away its sovereignty, to take away its independence. That has failed. It has sought to assert the power of its military and its economy. We, of course, are seeing just the opposite, a military that is dramatically underperforming and an economy, as a result of sanctions, that is in shambles. He also said, "We don't know how the rest of this war will unfold, but we do know that a sovereign, independent Ukraine will be around a lot longer than Vladimir Putin is on the scene." Now, in the clip that you saw, as I opened this video, Blinken said that Russia has already failed and Ukraine has already succeeded because the principal aim that President Putin brought to this, in his own words, was to fully subsume Ukraine back into Russia. That has not happened. That was the opening segment, and then there was a lot more. There were many more comments made by Blinken. But I think that that statement where he said that President Putin, in his own words, sought to subsume Ukraine back into Russia, can someone, anyone, find a statement from the Russian president where he says clearly, in his own words, according to Blinken, that the goal of this special military operation, which is what Putin called this, a special military operation, was to subsume Ukraine back into Russia? I remember when this SMO, this special military operation, was launched, this conflict got underway, that Putin was very clear, very specific in all his statements. Our goal is not to occupy Ukraine. Our goal is to demilitarize and denazify. I remember that those were pretty much the exact words that Putin made on many, many occasions, as did Lavrov and Shoigu and Peskov and all the Russian, Zakharova, all the Russian officials. They made the statement when the conflict first started that their goal was not to occupy, but to demilitarize and denazify. Now, I think that goal has changed. I think that the Russians are definitely going to build that land bridge, that corridor, all the way through Odessa and to Transnistria. And I believe a lot of the territory in this demilitarization and denazification campaign that the Russians have taken is not going to be going back to Ukraine anytime soon. And you can see all those signs with regards to Kherson, where you're seeing the region of Kherson now. They're using the ruble. They've got Russian media. They're putting Russian flags on all the administrative buildings. I mean, I think it's very clear that these regions are not going to be returning back to Ukraine. You're starting to see the same signs in Mariupol as well. You're starting to see Russian flags appearing on government and administrative buildings. So to believe that this territory gained by Russia is going to go back to Ukraine now is not going to happen, in my opinion. I don't see it. I don't see it coming about. But definitely the Russian goals, and Russia has not said that they're going to keep this territory. Just to be clear, they haven't come out with any statement. But in the beginning of this operation, the goals that Russia stated were not to occupy, demilitarize, and denazify. Now, those goals have changed, obviously. And I think a lot of the reasons why those goals have changed is because of the shock and awe sanctions by the West. But to be more specific, I think those goals have changed because the collective West has decided to escalate and pour as many weapons into Ukraine in order to break the back of Russia. Their goal, the West's goal, which they have stated, Joe Biden has said it in a speech, is for regime change in Russia. So the minute the collective West said, you know what, our goal is not for a democratic and free Ukraine, our goal is not for a peace agreement, our goal is not to tell Zelensky that Ukraine is going to remain neutral so that we can find some sort of security in the region. That's not their goal. The collective West has said outright on record that their goal is regime change in Russia. So Anthony Blinken then went on to say that the Russian economy is in shambles because of sanctions. That's a direct quote. And he also went on to say that the Russian military is dramatically underperforming. That is also a direct quote. The U.S. Defense Secretary then went on to say, "We want to see Russia weakened to the degree that it can't do the kind of things that it has done in invading Ukraine." That is coming from Lloyd Austin, who then went on to say that Russia has already lost a lot of military capability. So today I checked the ruble to the USD. It is sitting strong at 75 rubles to the dollar. I'm not sure where Blinken is getting his Russia's economy is in shambles information from, but I'm actually seeing quite the opposite. I'm actually seeing the collective West economy in shambles. And I'm seeing this happen to the collective West without the Russians actually doing anything. In other words, the Russians haven't even retaliated against the collective West's shock and awe sanctions that they launched against Russia. And I'm already seeing the boomerang effect. I think we're all living it, and we're all seeing the boomerang effect of inflation, food shortages, higher energy prices from the sanctions that the collective West thought would hurt Russia. It's actually just all boomeranging back to hurt us. So I'm not quite sure exactly where Blinken is getting his information from. Now, Austin's quote is really interesting because Lloyd Austin is just basically saying that we're going to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian in order to weaken Russia. I mean, he's kind of saying the quiet part out loud, isn't he? He's saying, you know what, we're just going to throw all the Ukrainians at Russia in order to weaken the Russian military. Now, why would Lloyd Austin want to weaken the Russian military? Well, I think that in their mind, they believe that if Ukraine can continue to fight Russia till the last Ukrainian, then eventually Russia's going to be in such a weak position that perhaps NATO may have some sort of opening. I imagine that's what these neocons are probably thinking at this point. And this kind of falls in line with Boris Johnson's statements when he was in India. And there's a really good breakdown on Alexander's channel where he gets into some detail as to what Boris Johnson said, because there was a lot more to Boris's comments than just Russia might win the military conflict. Boris Johnson, when he was speaking in India, admitted that Russia pretty much is going to win this conflict, but we're going to continue to escalate in order to weaken Russia. I believe that the neocons and the collective West have kind of fallen back on Plan D or Z. Can you say Plan Z? They've fallen back on their final plan of action with regards to Russia, and that is, let's destroy Ukraine. Let's throw every single Ukrainian at Russia, and let's just try to weaken Russia to the point where we can do something against Russia as NATO. I think they're actually that crazy. That's how they're seeing things. And they're probably seeing things maybe a year or two out. And they're saying if Ukraine can just last for a year and a half, and we just continue to throw Ukrainians into the conflict and just continue to throw them at Russia and just let Russia grind them down, but let it be a slow grind for another year, then eventually we're going to weaken Russia's military to the point where we can actually do something against Russia as NATO. I think that's really what they're falling back on at this moment in time. You know, when Blinken says something like Ukraine is going to remain when Vladimir Putin is long gone, when he makes statements like that, an independent Ukraine will be around a lot longer than Vladimir Putin. He also says we don't know how the rest of this war will unfold. So he's saying that the Russian economy is in shambles, the military is underperforming, but we don't know how this war is going to unfold. He knows how the war is going to unfold. And when he says an independent Ukraine is going to be around a lot longer than Vladimir Putin, I remember when they were attacking Syria, they came up with pretty much the same statements. They said Assad's going to be gone. Assad's out. Assad doesn't have long. Assad has 3 months. Assad has 6 months. Take a look at all those world leaders who said Assad must go. And who's still president of Syria? Assad. Who's not president of the United States? Obama. Who's not chancellor of Germany? Merkel. Who's not prime minister of the UK? Cameron. Who's not U.S. ambassador to the UN? Nikki Haley. So they were saying pretty much the same stupidities. Assad's going to be gone. Putin's going to be gone. Syria's going to be a democratic, free country out of the clutches of Assad. And somehow they thought that ISIS was going to be this democratic, group, the moderate rebels, right? Wherever you sit down, there's always noise follows you. Always noise follows you. Whenever you want to sit down and get some quiet, always something comes up. That's the difficulty of filming on the street. You never know what's going to happen. So yeah, they've said all these stupidities before. Assad must go. Putin must go. Look who's still around. I have a feeling that Putin's going to be around a lot longer than the existing Ukraine as we know it today. I'll put money on that. So those were the statements from Blinken and from Austin. And check out Alexander's video for the statements given by Boris Johnson in India. He gets into a lot more detail with those statements, and they're very well aligned with what Austin and Blinken said. Ursula von der Leyen in India pretty much said the same thing. I mean, she was at this conference and she gave a speech which was just completely dedicated to Russia bad, India needs to sanction Russia, we need to support Ukraine, India needs to destroy Russia. That was pretty much her speech. Her whole speech was just that. And I think everyone that was listening to her in India was just kind of like, just shut the hell up, Ursula. Why? You came all the way to India to talk about how we need to break off our relations with Russia and how we need to sanction Russia and join the collective West in supporting Ukraine. I don't think that was the purpose of this conference, but Ursula von der Leyen looked really, really desperate in her speech. But she made the same statements pretty much. The collective West is winning. Russia's economy is in shambles. Look at what Russia did to Ukraine. Zelensky is going to come out victorious. Russia's military is underperforming. I mean, she was just throwing out the same stuff. And because of all of this, India needs to sanction Russia and join the collective West. It's such desperation. I see it as desperation. It's a little bit of con artistry and desperation because they're trying to convince the Indians that things are not going well for Russia when all the facts on the ground and all the facts with regards to the economic war show the exact opposite, that the collective West is losing the economic war really, really bad. And, what's happening on the ground, I think, is pretty much the same. There are a lot of reports in and around Kherson, and I forgot to mention this when I was talking about Kherson not going back to Ukraine. There are reports that the Ukraine military is desperately trying to launch some sort of offensive to take back Kherson and to force the Russian military to retreat. Now, I think the Russian military is pretty well dug in to Kherson, and I don't think that the Ukraine military has any capability to launch any type of effective attack against Russia, a coordinated, effective attack against the Russian military in Kherson. I don't see it happening. But I thought I would bring that up because it is something that a lot of the collective West analysts, the military analysts in the collective West, they're talking about the Kherson offensive, which will break the back of the Russian military. We'll see. I will monitor the story. I'll monitor and see if any offensive is going to take place or can take place. And if it does take place, the results of that offensive. I personally think the Russians are sitting tight and they're waiting for the Ukraine military to try and do something with regards to Kherson, and then they're just going to annihilate them. I think they're just kind of waiting for them to make a move, so then they can just take them out while they're exposed. So anyway, Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to wrap this video up and get to a clown world. Vladimir Putin came out with a statement which rebuts and rebukes all of Blinken's Russia economy is in shambles narrative. So Putin came out and he talked about the economic situation in Russia, and he had 3 points that he highlighted. The first one is that the Russian economy has stabilized. Putin said that inflation is slowing down, prices are returning to their levels, The authorities of the Russian Federation will take measures to support citizens. Putin then said that he has instructed the cabinet and the Central Bank of Russia to closely monitor the effectiveness of measures to support the economy in order to make additional decisions if necessary. And then Putin said the increase in the key rate of the central bank was justified. This decision worked. I propose to reduce the rate on preferential mortgages from 12% to 9% per annum. So what's the takeaway from Putin's statement? Inflation is slowing down. Prices are not going to rise anymore, but prices are leveling off. He also said that the interest rate on mortgages are going to fall. And the central bank has everything under control, and the decisions they made when the economic war of attrition was launched on them worked. And the Russian economy is stabilizing. Inflation is slowing down. Can you say the same about what's happening in Europe or the United States? Is there anyone in Europe right now, any leader in the EU, or is Joe Biden ready to come out with a statement and say inflation is slowing down? Anyone? Nope. As a matter of fact, we are just getting started. I think inflation and price increases are bad now. We're just getting started. Wait till the food shortages really kick in. There are reports coming out that Rosneft, the big Russian oil producer, is pushing customers. It's recommending that customers pay for oil in rubles. So we have the gas for rubles, which is now policy, but Rosneft is starting to push customers to pay for oil in rubles as well. Pretty soon, it's just going to be all of Russia's commodities are going to be paid for in rubles. That's what's going to happen. That is exactly what's going to happen, and that's when the real pain is going to hit the collective West. That's when the real pain begins. It's not going to be pretty. We haven't even started to see the terrible effects in the collective West with regards to the, I'm trying to figure out how do I get up out of here. Let's see. I think I'll go this way. We haven't even seen the effects as to what these sanctions are going to do to our economies. It's just getting started. So that is those are the statements from Putin, giving a very different story than what Blinken and Austin are talking about, or Van der Leyen, or Boris Johnson, for that matter. So let's get to our clown world. Let's get to our clown world. Oh, and by the way, the Ukraine Parliament, the Rada in Ukraine, in Kiev, is now insisting that Ukraine be let into NATO. They're actually insisting that NATO let them in. They're not asking, they're demanding, which I find very, very interesting. The Rada's chair says that accession to the military alliance is Ukraine's prospective vision of its future. The Ukrainian parliament will not vote to remove the passage about the country's ambition to join NATO from the constitution, the Rada's chairman, Ruslan Stefanchuk, has revealed. So all of this, Ukraine is going to be neutral, and Ukraine should say they're not going to join NATO. Once again, more statements, this time coming out of the Ukrainian parliament, saying that, you know what, there is no way in hell we're going to remove any declarations with regards to Ukraine's ambition to join NATO. So the war is just going to continue. There is no prospects for a ceasefire. It's just not happening. So let's get to the clown world. This one's an interesting clown world. This is one of the best clown worlds. And this has to do with the fact that a 198-year-old Russian oak, a tree, a 198-year-old tree has been banned from European Tree of the Year contest due to the war in Ukraine. Let me read you the article. This is a great clown world. A famous 198-year-old Russian oak tree was banned from entering the European Tree of the year competition due to the ongoing invasion in Ukraine. Planted by novelist Ivan Turgenev, the tree has been disqualified by a panel in Brussels with a statement citing the unprecedented aggression against a neighboring country. The judges felt they cannot stand idly by amid Vladimir Putin's onslaught. And so, like others boycotting Russian products and ties, they took swift action. So like this is just ridiculous. Robert Barnes sent me the link to this story. Andrei Martianov had this on his blog, and I had to do a double take. When I read this story, I'm like, come on now. Cats are canceled, all right. V canceled, okay. Z canceled, okay. But now you're canceling a tree? Let's get some more information on this tree, this Russian tree that has been canceled. The tree in question was destroyed by a hurricane last year, and the Russian competition liaison said it was practically killed with your help for the second time. The competition was founded in 2011 as a way to celebrate historic trees and develop bonds between nations. But organizers found it impossible to remain separate from global politics. As with everything in today's world, it has to be political. You have to virtue signal. So which tree eventually won? Well, during the award ceremony on Tuesday in Belgium, a 400-year-old oak tree in Poland's Belovezza forest was crowned the winner. Belovezza forest was crowned the winner. Judges said it had become, this tree is what they're talking about. Judges said it had become a symbol of Polish resistance to aggression after it welcomed Ukrainian refugees fleeing the conflict. Clown world. The tree is a symbol now of the war, this tree in Poland, and the Russian tree has to get canceled because we have to stick it to Vladimir Putin. All right, everybody, I'm going to leave it there. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the Duran's channel, where we're doing great content and all kinds of live streams. All week, we've got content going up on the Duran and on Alexander's channel, and the Duran.locals.com. I am checking out from downtown Nicosia. Take care.